Rick Green. So I want to start with you, Robert, this time. First off, again, what are your thoughts on, people pressuring Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, where Rick lives, into declaring this as an invasion? And then also, your reaction to this poll, does that surprise you at all?
Well, I wish Republicans would stop governing by political stunts. It always seems to be some kind of new news grabbing, grandstanding that they use to deal with immigration. I'm going to put everybody on a bus and send them to Washington, D.C. I'm going to declare these things to be an invasion. I'm going to build a 50-foot wall made out of impenetrable vibranium all along the southern border. We need real solutions. I mean, we only have one party that's willing to actually come to the table and talk about real solutions. It's very difficult to get things done. We've articulated before. You could allow Rick Green to write the federal policy on immigration reform and have Joe Biden submit it to Congress, and we will not get a single Republican to vote in favor of it because they are more interested in having it as a political football for November than actually doing anything about it. We saw that in 2018. We saw that in 2015. We saw that in 2013 when they got everything they wanted and still walked away from the table. So until you have two parties willing to work on real solutions, we'll still see stunts like this. What is it going to mean when you declare it an invasion? Does that mean you're going to have the state National Guard go down with weapons and start shooting people running across the Rio Grande? Are you going to start having people just rounded up in vans and thrown across the border? These things aren't actually thought through as real policies. It's only meant to get headlines for politicians in election years. On the other aspect of it about the open borders conversation, what we have to understand is the current system that we have does not work, has not worked, and has never worked. So we need to put into place public policies, prescriptions that will do things like have a guest worker program so people can come here, work, and then go back home. Many people actually enjoy living in the tropical paradise that they live in and simply need the economic aspects of working here and to be able to support their families back home. Look at the same border issues we have with Canada right now. We have the largest unguarded border in the world because of the economic conditions in Canada aren't such that people are trying to migrate to the United States of America. This is why, as the hegemonic power of the Western Hemisphere, we need to be working for our allies up and down the Central and South America to improve conditions there, so we will not be forcing people to seek asylum in America, but rather be able to prosper there at home. So we can have people having real discussions and real solutions. Then yes, we can get things done. When we're talking about declaring things an invasion or shipping people to Washington D.C., well, we're not having a real conversation.
I do want to get your reaction to that, but I want to shift just a little bit, just ever so, to Ukraine. So, again, they're still trying to hammer out this deal that's been in the works. The president wanting Congress to work out something where they can send $33 billion to secure Ukraine's borders. Congress only approved, just for the record, $1.3 billion for the wall along the southern border in 2021. Rick, I don't know if you've drafted something up to send to Biden. Maybe you have, and he's not willing to listen. But I think Robert does bring up a good point that we've talked about. And we've seen both parties guilty of this, using an issue to help catapult them and further this, what they're expecting to be a red wave, possibly a red tsunami. We've seen this. There hasn't been comprehensive immigration reform. I think you can agree with that as well. However, do you think something is going to happen, that something is going to change?
Well, I usually only disagree with about 50% of what Robert says. This time I think it was closer to 80 or 90. So let me start with what I actually agree with him on.
Okay, all right.
And that is, I hate the political grandstanding too. I hate the theater. I can't stand all that stuff where they just, I agree, sending them on a bus to Washington, D.C., and those were only those that volunteered anyway. Abbott's a master at that theater thing. But to say that the actual language of the Constitution and invoking an actual provision in the Constitution right now at the time it's needed, that is theater, I completely disagree with. I mean, that's the proper way to do this. And so I hope that Governor Abbott does it. I hope that Governor Ducey does it. But it's vital that it is done. And the reason is because this isn't just people coming across the border because they want to work. I'm actually for making it 1,000 times easier to get into the United States legally, right, so that we can do exactly what Robert just said. What this is about is making it 1,000 times harder to come in illegally, because you have all this fentanyl coming across. You have all this child sex trafficking coming across. You have people dying. I talk to the people on the border. I visit with ranchers all the time at our events and go down. I mean, the reason that the southern border in Texas is turning Republican, these are strong Democrat strongholds, they are turning Republican because it is mayhem. It is death and destruction happening down there. So I don't think we have to use hyperbole. We can say, yeah, there are proper things to do. We're not going to send our National Guard down there to shoot anybody. We're going to send them down there to literally stop people from coming across. And yes, round them up in vans and take them back. That part we should be doing. As long as we don't do those things, it's an invitation to the world. Of course, everybody wants to come to America. All the people that say America's bad and racist and all these things, why do you think red, white, yellow, and black or brown? Everybody's coming to America because it's the greatest nation on the planet. It's the American dream. Nobody's going to Korea. Nobody's talking about a North Korean dream. Nobody's digging tunnels to get out of the United States of America. Of course they want to be here. We want them to come here when they come legally, but we don't want the illegal, dangerous immigration. That has got to stop. And the Democrats have had control. If anybody's not done anything for the last 13 months, it's the Democrats. I agree Republicans have had opportunities and blown it. I hope that doesn't happen after 2022, but I can't see them doing anything that Biden's going to agree with. So I think solving this one is literally 2.5 years away, and that's a long time for 200,000 a month to come across illegally, which is why the states have to step up.
So,
all right, gentlemen, we do have to switch gears. We do have to because I'm tight on time. Normally I'd let you weigh in, but I'm not going to get to all of it, and we need to get to this. Because I told our viewers we're going to talk about this. So hold that thought because this debate's not going away. So we were talking about the $33 billion. So included in that, nearly $9 billion is supposed to go to the Department of State in order for them to establish a global disinformation bureau, which is supposed to be an international version of DHS, Disinformation Governance Board. That's a mouthful. But anyway, they talked about this last week. We talked about it as well on this program. A lot of concerns over this. Elon Musk taking to Twitter to talk about that. A lot of people calling out the Biden administration, saying that basically this administration is working to censor Americans' free speech. Gentlemen, I want you to both react to this quickly. I didn't have time to get through everything, but I want to get you to respond to this. Rick, let's start with you.
Yeah, sorry for filibustering on that last one. I got a little excited. Yeah, this is
That's
one that
okay.
I think unites left and right, everybody, because, I don't care if you're left or right. You ought to be able to speak what you believe. I was just doing an event last Thursday, and we had bikers, hippies, Baptists, everything you could imagine, red, white, yellow, black, or brown, all at this group. And everybody was united in the idea that we've got to stop this censoring of truth. We need robust debate. The idea that they would do an Orwellian Ministry of Truth, for those that hadn't read 1984, please go read it. I mean, this is literally designed to silence the opposition, and it leads to, in 1984, it leads to the point of literally reversing history, reversing what actually happened, and lying about that. This is bad. It's a law enforcement agency that we're giving this kind of power to. Horrible.
All right, I got to quickly let Robert
That's
comment on this before we go to commercial break, because we've got to talk about the primaries. We got a lot.
Well,
Robert, 30 seconds on this.
On that same point, Republicans have been saying for months, we have to do something about the border. DHS says we're going to stop the disinformation that the traffickers and the coyotes are using to lure people to the borders, and Republicans call it Orwellian. They say it's 1984. This is what I mean when I say you can't do anything to make them happy, because the minute you do something, they claim that you're trying to turn into a fascist. And this doesn't make any sense. This will not apply to American citizens. It's about countering Russian disinformation. It's about countering much of what's coming out of Iran and North Korea that's attempting to interfere with the American democracy. It's about stopping the disinformation going to Central and South America, telling them that it's an open border here and to come on up and walk 1,000 miles here with your family. So the fact that anytime you do something, Republicans all immediately turn into conspiracy theory is what makes it hard to get things done.
Next, we'll be supporting the Ministry of Love. This is bad news, folks.
All right, stick around. We have hopefully maybe some good news for you when we return. We'll be